The words hit her like a fist. "Suck it," they shouted, laughing as if it was a joke. Lena felt the air leave her lungs, the hallway suddenly too tight, too loud, too full of men who believed she was nothing more than a challenge. They closed in around her, grinning, confident that she was trapped alone, outnumbered, and powerless. But they didn't know the truth. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you were watching from. I love knowing who's listening. The corridor was dim, lit by flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like a nervous insect. The smell of damp concrete and old sweat clung to the air. Lena's hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the surge of adrenaline that tried to take control. Her breath was shallow, steadying itself as if she were preparing for a storm. She wasn't supposed to be here. She had been assigned to assist the Marines with logistics, a role that was meant to be invisible paperwork, schedules, coordination. It was the kind of job that didn't attract attention. That's why she had agreed. That's why she had hoped she could stay under the radar. She had been wrong. The Marines were circling her like sharks. Their laughter echoed off the walls, loud and cruel. One of them stepped closer, his hand reaching toward her shoulder. Lena's pulse hammered in her ears. She could feel the heat of their bodies, the arrogance of men who believed the world belonged to them. She could have run, she could have screamed. But she knew something they didn't. She knew how quickly fear could be turned into control. Lena kept her face calm, her voice quiet. "What do you want?" she asked, and the simple question seemed to confuse them. Their smiles faltered for a moment. Their eyes narrowed. One of them said, leaning closer, "So we're going to teach you a lesson?" The hallway seemed to shrink. Lena felt her back press against the wall, the cold surface biting through her uniform. Her mind raced with memories she didn't like to revisit, the early days of training. The endless drills, the nights she lay awake listening to the world breathe while she tried to figure out how to survive it. But those memories weren't just pain. They were proof. She wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. One of the Marines stepped forward, his grin wide and predatory. "You think you're tough?" he taunted. "You think you can handle us?" Lena swallowed. Her throat felt tight. She could feel the sting of humiliation building, but she refused to let it show. She forced her face into a calm expression, the kind she'd worn for years when the world tried to break her. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She smiled. Not because she found them funny, not because she was happy, but because she wanted them to underestimate her. She wanted them to think she was weak enough to be toyed with. The Marine's eyes lit up. He took another step closer, confident. "That's right," he said. "You're just a girl." Lena's smile didn't waver. "Not just a girl," she said softly, her voice steady. "A woman." The lead Marine laughed. "Same thing." The air in the hallway seemed to thicken. The other Marines leaned in, waiting for the moment to escalate. Lena could feel their attention, their hunger for dominance. She could also feel the growing tension like a wire being pulled tighter and tighter until it snapped. She knew she had to act fast. Her mind moved through options like a chessboard. Every second mattered. Every move had consequences. She waited for the exact moment when the lead Marine's guard lowered, when his confidence became arrogance. Arrogance became careless. Then she struck. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was precise. Lena twisted her body, using the Marine's momentum against him. Her hand shot out, slamming into his arm with a controlled force that cracked through the air. The Marine stumbled, surprised, his face flashing with shock. The hallway erupted into chaos. The other Marines lunged, but Lena was already moving, her body flowing like water. She didn't run. She didn't need to. She moved with purpose, her training guiding her like a silent command. She grabbed the closest Marine's wrist, twisted, and used his own strength to flip him onto the ground. Another tried to grab her, but she stepped back, her foot sweeping his legs out from under him. The corridor filled with shouts and the sound of bodies hitting the floor. But Lena didn't stop. She pushed forward, keeping her focus, her breath steady, her mind sharp. She didn't want to hurt them. She wanted to end the threat. The hallway seemed to vibrate with tension. The Marines were disoriented, unsure how to react to a woman who moved like a storm. Their faces shifted from arrogance to fear, and that fear was a strange kind of victory. Then the door at the end of the hallway opened. A commanding officer stepped in, eyes wide, taking in the scene. The room went quiet instantly, as if the air had been cut. The Marines froze. Lena stood still, breathing hard, her heart pounding. She looked at the officer, and for the first time in the whole encounter, she allowed herself to feel something besides control. Relief. The officer's gaze shifted to the Marines, then to Lena. His expression softened, as if he understood what had happened without needing words. The Marines lowered their heads, shame replacing their arrogance. The officer spoke quietly but firmly. "This ends now." Lena's body relaxed slightly. She could feel the weight of the moment lifting. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew she had survived, and that was enough. The officer turned to the Marines. "Respect is not optional," he said. "Not here, not ever." Lena stood tall, her hands still trembling slightly, but her spirit steady. She had faced their cruelty, and she had not broken. She had shown them what strength really looked like. Because strength isn't measured by how loudly you fight. It's measured by how calmly you stand when the world tries to crush you. Because courage doesn't roar, it stands its ground. And the hallway that tried to trap her became the place where she proved she could never be owned. If you felt this story in your bones, comment where you're watching from. Subscribe to Whispered Words for more powerful mission stories that remind us what true strength looks like. Because the next story might just change the way you see the world.